I'm back on the bike again! Woo! Oh, it's been too long, guys. Seriously, it's been way too long. But I'm back on the bike. It's been about 10 months now since I've been on the bike, and it's been even longer since I've been on a V-Strom. Yes, this is the new model V-Strom, the 650. Well, I say new. It's been out a while now, I think, since 2012 actually. And jumping from my old to this one, there's not actually that much of a difference. Well, first of all, the first things that really pop out to me are it's a bit more nimble. It doesn't sound as grungy. The ride is about the same. It's definitely got a bit more power in it. Probably 15% more or thereabouts. That's kind of what it feels like anyway. Especially jumping from the Versys back onto a V-Strom again, you really feel the difference in power bands. Like, this just seems to just go and go and go in the same gear. I guess this has a bit more torque. But yeah, because I mean, I've been riding this the last day. I've got a 24-hour rental of this thing. I am in Australia as well at the moment, on the Sunshine Coast, and it's been beautiful weather. This is the winter here, and it is now showing 22 degrees Celsius here at 10 o'clock in the morning. So all day yesterday I had a pillion passenger on this thing, and it performed very well. In fact, riding it now compared to how it was yesterday, this feels right about the same. Okay, yeah, it's definitely lighter not having an extra person on, but the bike just handles so well that you would hardly even notice it. Now, when I was renting this thing, I was commenting how much I loved the first V-Strom, and the guy behind the counter said, well, you know, I've got all these bikes to choose from, and I don't choose this bike. I choose the KTM. And I was like, well, that's all well and good, but the KTM's a way more expensive bike, and I don't know, I was telling her how much I love this bike for its reliability and its all-around standards, and he says, oh, well, this bike has no character, whereas the KTM does. And maybe he's onto something there, but if you want a bike which is just going to do the job, you can't really go wrong with this bike. It's a workhorse, and you know, this bike has ABS as well. My last V-Strom did not. Now, I haven't had any ample opportunity to use the ABS on this yet. I haven't even had to brake very hard, but there's no one behind me. Yeah, I mean, it didn't really kick in there, but I braked pretty hard and it's kept its composure. The brakes are pretty good. Probably as good as the last V-Strom. It's, you know, you'd hardly even know you're riding a new V-Strom, other than the fact it is a little bit more nimble. There is a bit more power there. I think they've improved on the mirrors, in the sense that they are not as big, so probably more aerodynamic, and yet they still cover enough area to be usable. So that's actually probably a good thing in that they're smaller. Tool up, very comfortable. My legs did cramp a little bit yesterday, have to say. This bike is good, but just to bear in mind that it can cramp after a while. I'm sure if you got a bigger seat it would bring you up more, but of course then the trade-off is center of gravity. I'm going very slow now, and it doesn't feel like a huge ass heavyweight. I love what they've done with the headlights. Definitely looks nicer than the old model. So even though the tank is 1 litre smaller in capacity than the old model, they both do the same range. So hence this is more efficient. Same kind of 650 engine, but if I remember correctly, they've they've tuned this a bit differently, so it does seem to have that extra power. I mean, as I said, I believe guesstimating it's about 15% more power. Single exhaust, we got ABS, front and back of course. This is the same box I have on my bike. We had that packed up yesterday. Yeah, I mean, definitely with a pillion on the back, you do notice it on some of the corners. You know, it's definitely not as nimble, but you're going to get that on any bike. There's no mudguard on this one, but they do, from what I can see, they've got a box here already integrated into the bike where it covers up kind of like a mudguard, so it's not going onto the suspension. Just to give you an idea, if you're ever coming to Australia, this cost me $245 to rent for one day. Where I used to have the flashing button, hope you can see that, you click and it changes the different options on the screen. So you've got kilometerage, trip 1, your liters per 100 kilometers, trip 2, gear indicator, which I like as well, and you still got temperature gauge, and it's a speed gauge as well now. Hazard warning lights, you got left right indicators, horn. To pass somebody now, to flash them, you simply hit down on this, which is the light for turning on the headlights. And switching last night, because we was riding in the dark last night, it definitely will take a bit of getting used to. Just doing this low speed test now, just to really try and feel the bike's weight if I can. And yeah, it's quite easy. It's definitely not as heavy as I was expecting it to be by looking at it. And I don't think it would take anyone too long to really get used to this bike. Dare I even say a beginner might even find this bike fairly easy to get used to. But that's hard to say because I haven't been a beginner for a long time now. I've been riding 650s, as most of you guys know, for quite a long time. Now, I've never really ventured too far beyond the 650. I've tried a few 1000 bikes, but not that many. And a few 800s as well, BMWs, etc. And yeah, personally, I don't think you need anything bigger than a 650. 650 has it all. Like this bike has more than enough power to overtake somebody. Even with 2 up, it still had enough power. In fact, you hardly notice any drop in power as well between 2 people. The bike sounds very smooth. So smooth, in fact, that sometimes, even though I've got a gear indicator there, yesterday I was cruising along in 4th gear when probably I should have been in 5th or 6th. It's just able to handle higher speeds and lower gears very well, and it's not going to scream at you for it. It is a more silent engine, I think, than the old V-Strom. But I had it on the motorway yesterday, absolutely fine, no wind buffeting really. Probably could have put up the windscreen a little bit maybe, but it was definitely acceptable. Once again, on the straight, no one behind me. If I jam on, yeah, it's pretty confidence inspiring. The weight shift is fine, just it's very nimble. Like, for what I expected, it's quite nimble, and probably more nimble than the old V-Strom. Gear changes are good on this. Very smooth, no problems whatsoever, no false neutrals whatsoever. The clutch is not too heavy. Could be slightly lighter maybe, but it's definitely acceptable. Acceleration is very responsive. One thing I will say though is, coming back onto a V-Strom, I kind of realized that I've kind of not outgrown the V-Strom, but there was a reason I changed in the first place, and that was to try something new. And this is very similar to the old V-Strom, and not that that's a bad thing, because I thought the old V-Strom was a very good bike. It's just, it's very similar. So if you want something different, simply upgrading to this model isn't going to be that much of a difference between this one and the old one. So just bear that in mind.